Okay, welcome back, drummers. This is Garey Williams. We're now going to go through rudiment number 3 of the 7 essential rudiments. This is the double stroke roll. And as I discussed in the single stroke roll video segment, I'm going to be going through the 3 dimensions of technique. I'll be starting off with a full hand grip, controlling up and down motion of the stick. As I increase the speed, I'm going to loosen up my grip to incorporate a bit more rebound, so the stick is doing more work. And as I get very quick, I'm switching to all just bounce. So I'll demonstrate this slow to fast to slow, and then we'll break it down and talk about some of the different parts. Okay, so obviously the strokes were taller as I was moving slower, and as I increased the rate of speed, the strokes began to get a little lower. And as I got very quickly, you notice my arm position shifted like a racing motorbike. Just getting into that fast horsepower position where I'm incorporating some of the arm muscles to assist me. And at that point, I'm just really holding on to the stick. It's kind of like a hitch, and the horsepower is coming from the arm. So how do we get the sticks to go slowly from controlling the 2 strokes per hand and transitioning smoothly and seamlessly into 1 stroke with the stick bouncing twice? This is always the hard part about the double stroke roll. Now I've come up with a solution to experiment with ways in which you can get that transition. Now first of all, if you haven't really spent a lot of time doing the double stroke roll, you'll find that it's easier to get a bounce double if you really come out of it from a faster tempo. So here's a little practice tip for you. We're going to start with the multiple bounce roll, which is where we're squeezing the sticks tightly with the thumb and index finger, and the sticks are bouncing many times. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue maintaining a similar rate of speed between my hands. So the stroke speed will be the same, but what you're going to hear change is the density of the rebound. From very buzzy strokes, I'm going to loosen my grip gradually to get things to be more gargly sounding until finally the sound opens up into just a double stroke bounce. So you'll hear how that transition unfolds as I go. There it is. Now I could go back the other way. Just squeeze a little too tight, the sticks gargle, and I can squeeze really tight. And now I'm using a thumb, index, and middle finger, and I'm relaxing everything. And then from here, we can slow things down. It's a lot easier to go from bouncing to wristing than it is to go from wristing to bouncing. Now you can see my hands now are actually a lot more involved in the motion of the stick at this point. So watching my hands is really the key. So I'm going to demonstrate this buzz roll into a fast double stroke once again, and then slow it down to a stop. My hands are loosening up, I'm softening, I'm not throwing the sticks down nearly as much as I'm just dropping, playing with gravity. Now just to be really going for it, I'm bringing it all the way out without using any wrists. Now normally I wouldn't do that, but I think it's a good idea to have headroom in your ability to control rebound. So I try to sometimes be very dramatic with how much can I really get that stick to do the work. And if you're looking at my hands, you see my hands open up, the fingers pop out, so I get this nice rotation in my hand. The fingers are the gatekeeper. So if you keep the back of your hand closed up, the stick has no choice but to stay down. If I hold on at all times, the sound is very stiff. If I loosen it up, I get more resonance. At the same time, if I really open up my fingers, then the stick is really free to fly way back. So sometimes I try to take advantage of that just to get a really nice rebounded sound. So as I go into it from slow to fast, this is the hard part. Once you go from fast to slow and you're able to make that transition, here's a little exercise that will assist you to practice bounce to wrist to bounce to wrist. So whether you're going into the roll or coming out of it, you'll be able to make that transition between wristed doubles and rebounded or bounce doubles. So if we just experiment with just dropping the stick to see how loosely we can hold it and how much rebound, you just drop it. My hand's up here, and like flicking water off in the sink, I just let my hand flop down, flop. So by doing that, I'm extending my hand, my finger, stick is bouncing. So now the next thing is just to relax and realize after 2, you're done. You don't have to do anything else. 1, 2, pick up your hand. Drop, pick it up. Now as you experiment with this, you won't be so nervous to want to try to make 2 motions to guarantee the stick won't go more than twice. At first, if it goes 3 times, fine. What you're trying to do is just play around with the timing. You're not going to control the stick. You're just going to drop it, and you just learn to pick it up after the 2 bounces, maybe unison strokes. Sometimes this is good just to see if you're holding the sticks in a way to where the doubles will bounce at the same rate of speed, if both hands are tuned to being able to control rebound. All right, so here's how the exercise goes. We can all play wristed doubles, and then you drop into bounce, 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 bounce. Wrist, 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 bounce, 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 bounce. So I'm really just lightly tossing the sticks at the pad. That last one on the left, I helped it. Here's a little wrist bounce, combo, combo, all wristed. Now all bounce. Now we can try this at a little faster speed. So the idea is to be able to make that transition from wristing to bouncing without really hearing a difference in anything as much as possible. The sound will be a little bit different, but hardly noticeable. Okay? So those are the keys. So as I ramp it up, I'll do the whole thing slow to fast to slow. Very early on, I'm going to make the transition from wristed doubles into bounce doubles, because why not get started with the bounce? I'm going to get a nice relaxed approach to the sound and feel, and of course that's where I'm going to be spending most of my time, is bouncing. So here we go, the double stroke roll, slow, fast, slow. Wrist, 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 wrist. Loosening up my grip. Wrist bounce combination, bounce, 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 bounce. Now a little more arm. Back to really controlling the up and down motion of the stick. Okay, there it is, the double stroke roll. I hope that was helpful, so stick around. We're going to be moving on to the other 7 essential rudiments. Thanks a lot. Check out my websites, drumsetartistry.com and GareyWilliams.com. Have a good one.